friends, let's continue our discussion on inter-process communication. Last session we have seen some details about the inter-process communication, why it is required and all that, and then later we have seen how inter-process communication can be made through message passing. Now let us see how inter-process communication can take place through shared memory. Here the shared memory is an inter-process communication mechanism where multiple processes access a common memory region to exchange data. As we have seen in the beginning of operating system, we wanted to make sure that no two processes have something in common, neither they share the memory nor they share the resources, so they are isolated. We want them to be isolated, but in some cases we do require the information from one process to be transferred to another process, and that's where the information, the inter-process communication comes to picture. Here, instead of keeping them totally isolated, these processes we can make a common memory region and say that all the processes can use this common memory, and one process can write onto this memory and another process can read from the memory, because both the processes have access to that part of the memory. Then through this we can make sure that the process communicate with each other. This is the fastest form of inter-process communication, because it communicates by reading, writing directly to the shared RAM. So we don't have to send message to the kernel don't have to send message to the another process and all that. In doing this, what happens is there will be delay. The message from process A should first go to kernel, and kernel, if it is ready to accept the message, then okay, otherwise the message will be waiting in the list message queue, and once the kernel is free, it reads it and understands that this has to be forwarded to process B, then it sends to process B. So this all is possible only when this message reading, message forwarding has the highest priority at that time. Any other activity with a higher priority is with the kernel, then the kernel will delay this reading and forwarding message till the high priority activities are done, and definitely there will be chance of delay. But in this case, nothing like that. There is a common area where we can dump our information, and that common area is accessed by another process who can read it from there. So whenever process A is scheduled, it dumps its message onto the shared memory, and whenever process B is active, it reads from the shared memory. So there is no involvement of the kernel in between, there is no message queue, there is no waiting time and all that, therefore it is the fastest one. Here one process, the first process, will create a shared memory segment, and other processes attach themselves to this segment. So first process, whatever wants to share the information with another process or processes, will create one shared memory segment, and other processes which want to communicate with the first one get attached themselves to this particular segment, and then they start writing and reading from this segment. So all these processes read or write to the shared memory to exchange the data. That's what happens. So it's very commonly used in the producer-consumer problem. So here producer produces the information and consumer consumes the information. And this very commonly used through shared memory, and we try to use a circular queue for sharing the information. The shared memory usually is used in the form of circular queue because the first message should be read first, second message should be read second, third message should be read third, and so on. Therefore, we require a queue, and we know that overall in a given time there is a maximum size of the memory requirement. We know that how many messages can be there on the store. So using that size, if we can make a circular queue, then things will be quite easier, and with a very limited number of limited size of memory, we could get most of the required things. So here this example is showing that the red one is used for writing, and the green is pointing to the position where it is being read. So one process is trying to write and other process is trying to read, and this is continuously happening. So what happens? We know that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there are totally 12 slots available, and these 12 slots are sufficient for transmitting, because by the time the 12th slot is filled, the first, second, third, some slots will be read by the reader and they become free, and this can continue filling the next slots. So that way round it will be doing. So you can see that with only 12 slots the whole message is being transmitted, irrespective of size of the message. Even the message size is bigger than 12, it is able to do that. And that's what we talk about in the producer consumer problem. Here what happens, we have a producer and we have a consumer. Producer produces the information and puts it onto the buffer, and consumer reads from the buffer. So instead of having a linear buffer, we better use a circular buffer as discussed earlier, so that in the limited size of the buffer we can make unlimited usage. So how does it do? So we have one place where we read it, and there is another place we write it, and there is a queue. So the next time we want to read, we read from here. Next time we want to write, we write into this slot. So this blank slot available next is ready for writing the new input, and this the first filled in slot is the one which we can read next. So once this is read, this header moves here, and once a new data is written, this tail moves here. So this keeps moving, and when the header and tail are at the same place, which means that nothing is available, so we can't read anything. But if the head is here and tail has come to this end, then it means the head and tail are in the same place. It also means that the buffer is full, so we can't write anymore. So we need to wait till something is read and a slot is made free. And when these two are in the same place, which means that whole thing may not be, that may be totally free, so nothing to read. So let's check that. So this is the writing system, that is the producer, and this keeps on doing forever. If the tail plus 1, and we take the modulo of the buffer size. If this plus 1, so if we are here, plus 1 means this one. So if that is equal to the head, the out, then it means that we don't have any free space to write. So just keep waiting as long as in plus 1 mod buffer size is equal to out. Once something is read, then the out gets shifted, and this plus 1 is no more equal to out, and hence one slot is free, at least one slot is free, and in that slot we can write the next one after writing. So make sure to increment the tail end, that is what we call in this code, and in the figure we call it head for out and tail for in. So this is the producer system and the consumer system. So this also continues to do. If in is equal to out, that means without both of them are showing same thing, then there is nothing to read. The whole buffer is empty, so there is nothing to read. And if they are not equal, that means the in has shifted to the next location, out is still in the first location. So we have written at least one data onto the buffer. That means the in has shifted to the next location, out is still in the same location, they are not same. That means at least one data is available to read. So wherever the out is showing, that is wherever the head is showing, that data to take it into the next consumed variable, and then make sure to shift the head pointer to the next location. And this we want to make it round and round and round, therefore all these increments are in the mod version. Therefore after if this whole thing has got n slots, then after n it should come back to the first slot. So if it is going to start from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this will be n minus 1. After n minus 1, automatically it should become 0. So if in is n minus 1, so n minus 1 plus 1 will be n, and n mod n will be 0. So it will come back to 0. So that way, so we make it a round, so that with only n slots in the buffer, we can keep writing and reading any amount of data. Only thing to ensure is, if the buffer is full, stop writing. If buffer is empty, stop reading. That's only two things we do. So if the buffer is full, do nothing, stop writing. If buffer is empty, do nothing, stop reading. So this is the example where we are using two processes, one process that is producing the data and another process which is consuming the data, are working in sync through the shared memory. So that's about the inter-process communication. We have seen the requirement of inter-process communication, why it is required, what it is, and how it can be implemented. There are two ways of implementation. One is through message passing, and again in message passing there are two ways. One is a synchronous way, other is asynchronous way, and the second one is the shared memory. So that's it for now in the inter-process communication. Hope you enjoyed this journey. So if so, please do like, share, and do comment your opinions, what you want more, your feelings, and please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, share with your friends, and that's it for now. Thank you.